The President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. We would like now to hand over to the counsels for the civil parties to continue putting questions to the civil party. You may now proceed. Counsel, Mr. I'm Eun, I have a few more questions. And for the sake of good record, you also are now asked to talk about the speech by Mr. Kyo Sampan. Apart from what you already indicated earlier on concerning the speech he made during the political session, would you wish to add something else? Response. Could you please ask your question again? What would you like me to add? I mean, when it comes to additional or something else, what do you mean by that? Question. Before we broke, you were talking about Mr. Kyo Sampan remarking in his speech about people who oppose the government, oppose the party, women who used needles carelessly, and workers who used the plows unwisely, and those were treated as the enemies or opponents of the party. We would like you to add, if you wish, on this topic, if you have something else to say. Response. I just wish to add only one word to this. He told us to look into people's ways of doing things. He said that whatever the party wanted us to do, we had to. I would like to question someone. I think this is the opportunity I may ask this question to them. What does that mean? Question. Are you now putting question or you're responding to my question? It appears to me that you are now asking a question other than responding to my question. Could you please be more precise on this? Response. I do not have any additional response to that. Question. You also stated that you attended the political studies session for 1 week. Apart from the 1 week study session, did you have to work at a hospital in Phnom Penh? Response. For the 1 week study session, indeed after this session I had to go to the hospital. It was my task already to attend study session. I didn't ask for that. Question. Who was the head of the hospital you worked in, and in what section did you serve at the hospital? Response: I worked to help in the political education sessions, and I also had to study hard because the party appointed me to work and asked or sent me to Phnom Penh. I had to learn hard to ensure that I improve my skills. Apart from that, I did do nothing else except looking after the students, medical students. Question: were you also asked to be in charge of looking after the patients? Response: every doctor was supposed to look after their patients. We had to take turn serving in the hospital and to take good care of the patients. Question: could you describe the condition of the patients at the hospital? Who could have been the patients or the inpatients at the hospital? Response: the patients at the 17th of April hospital were mainly workers, employees, and officials who worked in Phnom Penh. Question: how were these people treated? How effective the treatment was, and had there ever been any patients die because of the treatment? Response: I have never noted this. It was possible that there could be cases where patients could have died because of the carelessness of the treating doctors. But I never saw this, so I would never want to elaborate further on this. Question: how were medicine prescribed to the patients? Where did this medicine come from? Response: at each hospital there was a place called pharmacy. The pharmacy section and person who was in charge of the section would be assigned to offer the medicines to people according to the prescriptions. In my unit, practically during the period when the East Zone did not change politically, we had decent medicine. we did not have experienced shortages of medicine among the cadres. And I believe that these medicine were left over from the former regimes. We gathered them from various locations and had them stored in our hospital. So we just collected the remaining medicines left over in various pharmacies across Phnom Penh and had them stored in our hospital for treating our patients. Question: were there any medical operation conducted on people as part of experiment? Response: at the 17 April Hospital or Cambodia Soviet Friendship Hospital, there were medical doctors who were from Sector 20. It was the largest hospital in the country back then. I did not witness any medical operation, but I did see this happening at the base when people who were expected to be executed had to go under medical operation as part of the experiment. They were operated on alive. Question: you said that you saw people at the base going under medical operation alive. Is that correct? Response: the truth is that I was also involved in this. They did not bring the corpse to be operated on. They brought the real human beings for this operation, and I was standing next to the operating table, and people would be laid on a table, and trainees would be asked to look at how the fingers would be cut and removed. So they cut parts of the body, then they only leave one of the hands attached to the dripper, and the operation was on. But these people were unconscious already because some kind of medicine was injected to make sure the people were unconscious when the operation was conducted. This happened in Prewang at Sector 20, and I saw this with my own eyes. Question: who ordered such operations, and why these people had to be operated on? Response: I was told that the majority of these people had been the spies. These people who remained from the old regime, those people who were classified as those who would be executed according to the slogan of keeping you is no gain, losing you is no loss. And the whole body would be chopped or operated and cut into pieces and then put in a bag to be discarded. Question. Thank you. You said keeping you is no gain, losing you is no loss. Could you please be more precise on this? What do you mean by that? Response. Keeping you is no gain, losing you is no loss, means that any person who fell in that category were perceived to be dead already and to be executed. So the party made the decision on these groups of people. Question. Thank you. I would like to now touch upon the topic of your career at the hospital. During the course of your work there, did you ever see experts, medical experts from a foreign country to offer training sessions there? Response. I saw foreigners, Chinese and Koreans, who came to provide medical training at the hospital, and Mr. Chun Chun was very good at that. I saw him who gave trainings, and I still recognize him if he would be standing here today. He was of a medium build. He taught us about the scientific medical methods, and the Korean and Chinese also assist us with the operation techniques. And indeed, people selected people with different expertise to teach us with regard to different kind of specialty. For example, those who specialize in treating TB would then be assigned to teach trainees in that relevant section. After each topic of training, then we move on to another field, and several trainers would come and go. I could not remember them all. I still recall another teacher or trainer by the name of Ni and Mr. Chun Chun, as I just indicated, who were my trainers. Ni was good at training people on TB. Question. Thank you. Can you also please clarify whether in your hospital or how many people or staff member at the hospital are they alive today? Response. I'm afraid none survives. I never met them or any. There were a lot of people in the hospital as staff member. I never even know where Mr. Chun Chun could have been, let alone the other members of the staff at the hospital. I just know that he was my trainer, and he was specialized in heart operation. Question. Were there any arrests ever been made of the medical staff members. Response. I can talk based on what I saw. During the course of my study, members of the staff member were arrested. People who came to attend study sessions were also arrested. I did never observe the way people could have been arrested, but I saw this. And those who were at great danger were at the beginning people from the east zones, then the northwest, the north and the northeast zones. People would be loaded onto the trucks, and I asked where they could have been taken to. I was told that these people were the enemies of the people of the party, or the people who betrayed the party. And they were tortured when they were being loaded onto the trucks. That was a very tragic moment, and I always cry when I saw this. And women were even badly treated than the male prisoners or kept people who were arrested. Counsel. Uncle, could you please compose yourself? Indeed, we really need your testimony. Are you content with me carrying on, or would you like some moment before we can proceed? Please let us know. Response. I do not wish to stop you from putting more questions, but please bear with me that there will be some moment that I will be very emotional. Counsel. Thank you, Uncle. I would like to put a few more questions concerning the arrests. When you saw people being arrested, what was your feeling? Did you ever know the reasons behind such arrests? Response. I saw the arrests. I only saw some of the arrests, not all. But I actually witnessed this. I saw a man who was, a woman who was in the committee for our school, Ling Say. She was in charge of political study sessions. On one occasion, I saw her being loaded onto a truck. She was naked. I asked who she was, and I was told that she was Tiêu Ol's spouse. Question. Were you aware of the reason behind the arrest of Mrs. Ling Say? You said she was the wife of Tiêu Ol. Do you know who Tiêu Ol was? Response. Tiêu Ol was an intellectual, a writer, but at that time I did not exactly know for sure what he was. I learned at a later date. Counsel: thank you, Uncle. I have no further questions at this time. I thank you very much indeed for your clarification and responses. I would like now to cede the floor to Mr. Pick Ang, who may wish to put a few more questions to you concerning your statement in your complaint. Counsel Pick Ang: good afternoon, Mr. President, Your Honors, and everyone in this courtroom. I would like to proceed with a few more questions. And good afternoon, Mr. Am Eun. I wish to seek some clarification. When you reached Cambodian Soviet hospital, did you start learning medical sessions immediately? Response: I may have some reservation on this. I did not remember what I did before I started the medical study sessions. But I remember that I attended some sessions, perhaps political sessions, before we went to the medical training sessions on operation. So I just could not recollect the main event, whether I first started learning the medical training session, attending medical training sessions, or I attended the political sessions before that. But I did attend the two sessions. I just forgot to re-establish the consequences of the event. Question: were you referring to the political sessions elsewhere or at the hospital? Response: these political study sessions was the only political session that I ever attended. Question: was there any moment that there was the opening ceremony of the sessions being conducted at the Cambodia Soviet Hospital? Response: before we attended the medical training sessions, there was an opening ceremony. I mean, the training session had to be opened before we started. Question: who chaired the opening ceremony? Who would be in the dignitary composition, those who chaired the ceremony? Response: before we started the medical training sessions, the opening session was chaired by the head of the hospital, the 17th of April hospital, Mrs. Ling Say, Mr. Chuan Chun, and other medical doctors. Altogether, there were about 10 people who chaired the event.
Question: were there any other people other than those attendees? No, there weren't any other people then. Thank you. Question. When you were studying at the Russian hospital, when did you go to study the political session at Boracay after you were attached to the Russian hospital? Response. To my recollection, the political training session I attended was held for approximately 1 month and a half or 2 months or so. Question. Following the political training session, how many more months did you continue to stay at the Russian hospital before you returned to your base? Response. Following the completion of the medical training course in Phnom Penh, it was about 6 or 7 months after the political training session. Then I returned to the base, but I cannot recollect it that well. It may be not totally correct. Question. You said the course was designed for 1 year period, but in total you spent only approximately 9 months. Did you complete the curriculum design for the course, or did you have to compress the curriculum so that you could finish it earlier? Response. No, I don't think that we completed the curriculum, but I was told by the director of the hospital that we had to go back to the base in order to treat injured combatants in the war between Vietnam and Cambodia. So as a trained physician, we had to return to our respective base in order to treat them. So we could not actually complete the course fully. We studied for only 9 months, and originally the course was designed for 1 full year, but actually we could only study for 9 months. We concluded the training session was not because we completed the curriculum as it was designed, but instead because the circumstance at that time justified it. And at that time, there was a desperate need for a physician to treat injured combatants. Question. You mentioned that you had to return to the base to treat injured combatants in the war with Vietnam. Can you tell the court when exactly you went back to the base? Response. It was my estimation. I do not recall exactly when, but it could have been in late 1977 or early 1978. Question. Thank you for your clarification, and I would like to expand a little further. I know that my colleagues has already asked you about your training course in Boracay, and I would like to expand a little bit on this topic so that we can clarify certain points. Can you clarify to us, when you were studying in political session in Boracay, how many participants were there in each session? Could you describe the environment, the atmosphere of the training course held over there? Response. I attended the political training course in Boracay. It was actually conducted in a classroom setting, and they actually constructed a building, a school with a zinc roof. And as for the participants, there were approximately well over 1,000 or a little above 2,000 participants, because as I said earlier, the participants were those with the equivalent rank of the present civil servant of a district chief or so. So they were from across the country. And looking at the curriculum of the training course, I did not really understand it very well, because I was trained physician, and I was also in charge of student affairs as well. So sometimes I stayed overnight at the that political training school, but sometimes I stayed at Russian hospital. So at that times I asked myself why I had to be trained over there. But generally, I noted that people had to stay in a house collectively. For example, if there were several flats sharing the wall, they would knock down the wall in order to make room for the participant attending the training course. And the curriculum was rather intensive, and we had to study hard. And as I said earlier, the participants were at the rank of at least district committee chief, or the committee members from the sector, district, or as well as the directors of the departments subordinate to various ministry in Phnom Penh. So there were around 2,000 or so participants in the training course. And as for eating, we had to eat in the communal hall. We ate collectively together in the hall. And I myself slept anywhere. I did not mind sleeping in the hammock, or I slept on the floor. At that time, we had to sleep in the communal hall together as well. Question. Now, if we look at the room, the training room, and you said that there were some 2,000 participants or so. So can you tell the court what the classroom setting like over there? Why can it accommodate up to 2,000 or so participants? It is not my speculation, but I just want to emphasize that I cannot be exact. Actually, the school I mentioned just now, it was not in a room setting like this, but they actually had one hall for the meeting purpose. It was like at the Russian hospital as well. We did not study in the school complex. Instead, they had one building which was meant for the meeting and training session. And we did not have a lot of space for us. We had small chairs and a small table in front of us to write things down. It is my a recollection of it, but it was not my speculation, but I believe that that room could accommodate to up to 2,000 participants. And there was a hall in the Russian hospital which could accommodate up to that big numbers of participants as well. Question, you mentioned that one participant were given one table and one chair. How big was the chair and the table then? We had one table to ourselves. It is of this size where I'm sitting, but there was a small board in front of me, a small, very small one where we can place our notebook in front of us. But of course, the chair was not movable as we are having. It was like the ones the public sit on in the public gallery, but it was not that big. It was like the chair on my left. It can be removed from one place to another. So it was meant for one student each at the time. President, Council, probably you think that you have abundant time to ask the question. If you dwell on an issue such as the size of the tables or so, I think that it is too minor an issue to be discussed here. You should ask any question that is relevant to the facts in case 002/01.
បាទសូមអរគុណលោកប្រធានដែលរំលឹកដល់ខ្ញុំចំពោះការងារនេះ
Thank you, Mr. President, for reminding. But the reason why I asked that question is to ensure that the civil party before us really participated in the training session, and he really understood the situation over there. I just want to ask to make sure that there was a veracity in what he said. So I would like to move on now. You have submitted your information form, victim information form, submitted to the victim support unit. I would like to now show you a document D22/363. ERN in Khmer 00573979. ERN in English 0071. My apology, 0075 1867. And ERN in French 0078 6186. This document was uploaded on the interface, and I would like to show this document to the civil party with your permission, Mr. President. The President, yes, you may proceed. Council Picong. In this particular page, you mentioned that at first Mr. Khieu Samphan was a cadre who focused on the new people in Chi Klang commune, because Khieu Samphan thought that those new people had the mentality of feudalism, and Khieu Samphan thought that both the new people and old people had to be screened in order to find the enemies, to flag out the enemies. So we had to impose the work among those people so that we can single out those enemy hidden from within If we administer work for them, we would be able to identify them. And then they added that for cadres, especially for friends and colleagues who were studying here, had to comply with this order. And if they resist or protest against this order, they would be considered enemy as well, which who will be eventually smashed. So my question to you, the word new people, rather, the segregation between the old and new people during that period, did it exist? And if it did, whether or not that idea were implemented during the Democratic Cambodia period? Response. What do you mean by the 3-year period? Are you referring to the period after 1975, after the 17th of April 1975, or 3 years before the 17th of April 1975? Council, thank you for seeking clarification with me. I am referring to the period after the 17th of April 1975 till the 6th of January 1979. The old people and new people were segregated and identified, and I would like to know whether or not there was a treatment or policy implemented in relation to the new people. My main question really was whether or not there was any distinctive policy applied to new people. Response. Upon my return from Phnom Penh to my base, as I said, particularly people in Jiklang village and Jiklang commune, that village was the medical base for combatants. When I say that the situation was serious in that village, was because that place was where people were experimented. So I actually witnessed that situation in the hospital with which I was attached. I saw the working environment and the situation over there, and they actually mentioned very clearly that new people, losing the new people were of no loss, and keeping them was of no gain. And as for your question whether or not this policy was implemented, if I say that there was no implementation of that, I think that people would say that I exaggerated it. But if I did not say, then they would accuse me of hiding the fact. But actually what happened on the ground was that it did happen. And I also mentioned in my document that I actually asked my wife to flee the place because I did not want to witness that. Question. Coming back to the political training in Borei Kaila, do you recall whether Khieu Samphan discussed the affairs or things that were dealt with by the other speakers before him? Response. Before they changed the speakers in order to address the topic they were supposed to do. Normally, they try to recall what the previous speaker mentioned, and then they try to link up from where they left off. Question. I would like to move on to another topic concerning the period in late 1977 and early 1978 when you returned to Sector 20. You went there and worked as a medic or as a ordinary physician or general physician. Upon my return from Phnom Penh to my base, Sector 20, I went back to my old office, and I was in charge of training of other medical training, and I was also in charge of the political training session for people at the base as well. And I also went to inspect other hospitals as well when times permitted. I would go to see if there was an outbreak of diseases or epidemic diseases in other district hospitals. Question. You also mentioned in your own information form in the preceding page of the portion I just mentioned to you, you said that you were forced to get married. Can you elaborate this a little bit further here, how it happened? On this point, I would like to apologize in advance to lawyers and the chamber if I am long-winded on this issue. Because if I wanted to describe about the life experience, it would be very long. As a youth, I believe that we want our freedom to choose our own wife. And if you were forced to get married to someone whom you do not love, that was very painful. And at that time, the situation was that pressing because they actually suppressed us to get married, and they actually arranged that marriage for me, and I had to get married to someone whom I did not love at all. And at that hospital, at the base, I was given the responsibility to oversee the situation in the hospital, and I was asked to get married to someone whom I did not love, and I protested. But then they punished me. They transferred me to work in the work site instead of working in the hospital. But later on, they had to return me back to the hospital because there were many patients needed treatment. So I was transferred back. Before they called me back, they asked me again whether or not I agreed to get married to my arranged wife. Actually, I took serious consideration. It took me approximately 2 weeks or so, and then eventually I decided that I had to get married, otherwise my life would be in serious risk. So I had to force myself to accept this arranged marriage. I had to accept it, but once again, accepting this proposed or arranged marriage, it was very difficult at that times. My wife did not love me either, so whenever we stay together at night, we cry to each other. Council. With utmost respect, Mr. President, I would like to turn to another topic on the injury he suffered during that period. And if I turn to this topic, it may take some time. I am in the hand of the President now. I don't know whether or not I should proceed from here. The President, can you please repeat your answer, because the microphone was not on, and if you speak while the microphone is not on, your answer will not get through the sound system and it will not be rendered. Can you respond to the last question posed by Council? I will answer to all the questions asked so long as I can answer those questions. I could not hold my tear because if I recall my past, I sometimes cannot hold my tears. And I was a man, I suffer from it, but I could also imagine the feeling of the lady. She was suffering from it as well. And when we, at night, we discussed to each other, and if we refused, then we would be killed eventually. So we had to force ourselves in order to satisfy those who arranged for us. So we had to concede to this. It took me approximately 2 weeks or so to decide to consummate the marriage with my wife. This was the suffering I had to endure at that time. And to date, I cannot forget it. And I could not even find out who ordered these heinous crimes. I did not want to take any revenge, but I want to know who initiated this idea, and I know that this was a very heinous act, and the leaders, even though the leader might not have been aware of that, but they should understand who was actually doing that. I was one of the victims, and I believe that there were many more victims.
But
Council, could you please slow down? After your marriage, were you spied on? For example, whether you're living with your newlywed couple was being spied on. Response. Mr. Lawyer, I would like to also share with you the reasons. I talked to my wife how we could deal with this. We understood that we would be under constant watch days and nights, and we thought that we would be killed if we did not express our love to one another, just to pretend we love one another, to please the others. So we then got a daughter against all odds. Question: did you continue to remain married after the Khmer Rouge? Response: after the Khmer Rouge regime collapsed, I still maintain our marriage. We lived to have another son, or rather another child, because I had been very sympathetic for her, and I really had a lot of problem maintaining this marriage, but it could last because of my sympathy only, not because of my love to her, and she didn't love me either. So until one day we couldn't stand no more, so we decided to part our ways and got divorced, and I now got married with a new wife. Question: you said you got married on the 17th of April 1977, and on the another page of the same document you indicated so. But you said that in 1977 you started in Phnom Penh. How could you get married on the 17th of April 1977 in another location? Could you clarify this for us, please? Response: I already apologized to the court if I could have made some mistakes. I chose the 17th of April as the date when I got married because people who loved me, who attended my marriage, without their support or their presence during my wedding, I would never choose to get married. So I really got married, but whether I got married on the 17th of April 1977 or 1978, I feel not sure, but indeed I could have been married in one of the years. It could be the 17th of April 1978 or 1977. Counsel, are you saying that 17th of April or 17th of July 1977? The President: Counsel, when we discuss about the first phase of the trial, the inhumane or other inhumane acts have already been excluded from the first phase. We are now focusing on the forced transfer, phases 1 and 2. So we would like you to frame your questions in line with the first segment of the trial, case 002/1, please. Council. Thank you, Mr. President. I just wished to clarify a few points because there was some discrepancy in the statement. The President, indeed, you are never prohibited from seeking clarification from the civil party or witness, but make sure that your clarification falls within the scope of the alleged facts, not just something not relevant to the facts at issue. Council, thank you, Mr. President. My next question to you is about your relatives. During the evacuation, were your family members affected by such evacuation, or had you lost any member of the family? Response. My family members were not impacted by the evacuation, but I did lose some members of the family. And it takes me some time to talk about this loss. So on my side, I have lost more than 20 people, including my cousins. That does not include my relatives by marriage. So on my side, I have lost about 20 or up to 30 people. That's people lost before 1975, and more members of the family also lost after 1975. Council, this is my last question to you. Have you been affected by the loss of your loved ones? Response. I may talk in length concerning this. Am I allowed to do so, Council, Mr. President? Because I need more time on this. The President, Mr. Civil Party, you will be given the opportunity to talk about this, indeed, at the end of the examination. So the injuries and your suffering could be expressed at a later date, indeed. Council, thank you, Mr. President, and Your Honors. I have no more questions to put to the Civil Party. The President, thank you, Mr. Civil Party. Mr. Eun, the testimony session today comes to an end. The Chamber will adjourn. The next session will be resumed on Monday, the 27th. Your testimony will continue to be heard. The questions to be put by the prosecution. On the afternoon of the 27th of Monday, the Chamber will not be conducting the hearing. Instead, the trial management meeting will be convened to finish the unresolved matters left over from the previous trial management meeting, and that meeting will be in closed session. Mr. Eun, you are invited to come back to give testimony again on Monday, and court officer is now instructed to ensure that Mr. Eun is properly assisted and accommodated during the period when the chamber has no sessions, and have him return to the courtroom by Monday at 9 a.m. Security personnel are now instructed to bring all the 3 accused persons to the detention facility and have them return to the courtroom by Monday next week before 9 a.m. The court is adjourned.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ